Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right-hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, awesome. Well, of course, we're here to talk about the brand new album from Carnifex, which is going to be coming out August 2nd through Nuclear Blast. I've gotten the chance to be able to check this out over the last couple days. I've probably gotten about 3 or 4 spins of it so far, and I just really love what's going on with this album. I love thematically what's going on with this album. I love the aggression and the great melodies that are going on beneath it as well, too. I mean, there's a great ethereal, atmospheric aspect that's going on with it, and honestly, this feels like the best Carnifex album to date, to me.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and, I gotta let you know, all the guys in the band agree with you. Yeah, we feel the same way, in all honesty. It was an inspired record, to be pretty frank about it. Like, we had a lot of great energy coming off of Slow Death and that touring cycle that we did, which was a pretty long one. We did 2 years of touring on that album. And it was great. It kind of never let up. Usually when you get, 2 years or a year and a half into an album cycle, it's sort of, the energy sort of kind of peters out a little bit because the record's not so new anymore. But that didn't really happen with Slow Death. And we just had this great energy just right out of that cycle, that touring cycle, and right into the writing for World War X. And man, it was just a really fun time to be able to take all the support that the fans have been giving us and just put that energy into the album that you have in front of you. So I'm glad that you're feeling that, all that, that you're enjoying it, and all that, the theme and everything, that was just kind of from the support of the fans, just really motivated us to go for it.
Oh, and it's great to hear that, too. I mean, I know you guys were touring behind the last record so much, like you said, like a lot of bands, maybe they'll get like a couple tours out of it or something like that, but it was great to see that you were able to tour so much behind that album, and the fans wanted to be able to come and see you that much, that you could be able to tour behind it that much.
Yeah, it was rad. We were really thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with that in mind, of course, taking that energy and being able to put it into this record, how did the writing process begin with this album?
Well, it began right after we got out of the studio from Slow Death. We started writing probably in October of 2016. But, as I said a second ago, we were touring a bunch as well. So when we write on the road, it's a lot different than when we're at home. It's more of just kind of putting basic riffs together, just very broad ideas, very like kind of general assemblies of songs. Like, we're not really getting into it yet. We're just sort of accumulating material, right? So we did that for that whole touring time, that whole 2 years. And then in between tours, we didn't have a whole lot of breaks, but in the breaks that we had, we would then go into that material and really refine it and see, after listening to it for a month, sort of, did it stand up, or, nah, this riff sucks, let's toss it, and we just were real methodical about it for that entire 2 years while we were in the cycle. And then when we finished in August of 18, in September of 18, we pretty much just only focused on writing, and we just had all this material to really sort through and then refine down to finished songs. So September through January, when we went into the studio with Jason, that it was just us rewriting all that material for 5 months, and then we went into track right after the new year in January of this year, January of 19.
And with that in mind, I mean, obviously with how amazing the last album went, from the amazing songs that were on that album to the great touring and everything. Of course, you had Jason Zukov part of it as well with this record. I mean, what was it like to work with him again?
Yeah, Jason's a friend at this point. We've spent so much time with him now. I guess we've done like 3 records with him now. And whenever we're in Florida on the road and we have a day off and we're in the area, we'll go by his place and hang out, park the bus, like, right in front of his house and everything. So, he's a friend of the band. And one thing that was real exciting when we went into the studio this time around was, after Slow Death, Nuclear Blast had re-signed us. So we got a new deal. They gave us a bunch more money, and they were really supportive of us just going for it. And so what that enabled us to do was be able to go to Jason's studio with time. That's a great thing about getting the better deal, is it really opens up the calendar to be able to say, hey, we don't have to record an entire record in 15 days. We've done that plenty of times, and it's totally doable. We did Hell Chose Me in 16 days. It's totally doable, but it's also really hard, and it's also kind of not what we want to do. You've heard the album. It's a much bigger album. There's a big scope to that album, and there's a lot of layers to that album. There's a lot of orchestration on there, and it just takes time to put all that together in a way where it makes sense, into where, you listen to a song like No Light Shall Save Us, man, there are so many different tracks on that, but we took the time, Jason took the time, and you can hear everything in that mix, and it's not cluttered. It's just a great laid out mix, and that's credit to Jason, and really being able to just go through the process of assembling it meticulously. And so we spent 44 days in the studio, which is far and away the longest we've ever spent, but the proof's in the pudding, so to say. We have the result, and that's the best, sonically the best sounding album we've ever done. And then also on our, artistic opinion, I believe it's our best work as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more from both stances on that. I mean, it's so much fun to listen to, sonically, because, it's just like there's so many layers. Every time you listen to it, you can hear something new that's going on with it. And of course, from the songwriting aspect, I mean, I love what's going on there. I mean, if you were stuck with like 15, 16 days, it might not have had the orchestration and the ethereal atmospheric moments on there.
Yeah, I don't think we could have done it, and the thing is because, and I'm sure, you noticed this, like the guitar playing on this album is the next evolution. And that's credit to Jordan, that he has just stepped up his guitar playing and his songwriting in an amazing way. And part of the 44 days was, Jordan and Jason basically just two guitar virtuosos. Like those guys are on another level, and they were just in there. Man, they tried so many different guitars. Because you may not. What's interesting about the album is it's actually in drop F. It's a really, really low tuning. It's actually lower than maybe like Acacia Strain or kind of some of the gent bands that do the real low tuning. It's actually lower than that. But when you listen to it, it doesn't sound like that. You hear such a spectrum of notes from the highest range to the lowest range. And that's not easy to do. It's hard to get really clear, in tune, direct tracks on some of these really complicated riffs with all these other layers and that real low tuning. It's kind of out there on the fringe. And Jordan and Jason, I mean, they're just living out there, and that record I don't think sounds like any other record right now because of that. Because those guys are so far out there musically, they can do that. They can take those crazy low tune guitars, and you wouldn't even know. They just had all those notes to play with, and I think a lot of that uniqueness is on the record because of those two.
Oh, yeah. And, I would go as far as saying, just like the entire band. I mean, from the drums, the bass, guitar, the orchestration, Jason being able to mix it all together. And, of course, what you can do on this record, too. I mean, both lyrically and what you're doing with your vocals. I mean, it always sounds like an improvement that's going on with Carnifex. And, when you're able to spend, like, over double what you normally would on a record, I mean, this really shows off what you guys were really capable of, and it's great to hear that, and I can't wait for everyone else to finally get the chance to hear that as well.
Yeah, I gotta say, you're only the second person that I've spoken to that's heard the album outside of, the band and the label and whatnot, so you're just, I'm starting to hear feedback for the very first time, and this is like 3 years in the making, so it is really cool to know that we're not just smelling our own farts. We've kind of been, off in the corner thinking that we're really working on something special, but, you don't know until everyone else hears it. And, to hear some positive feedback, just the beginning of it really is a great feeling, because we did put everything into this. And creatively, we did really go for it, and it could have been a big misstep, but it wasn't. So, it's nice to be able to get like that positive reinforcement and know that this record that we really made with the fans in mind, that it's actually a record they really love too.
Well, I'm glad to be able to bring some of that early positive feedback to it, because I really do enjoy it. And, again, I could just keep going on about the production and the songwriting and favorite tracks that I have. I mean, there's so much great to talk about this record. And, it's great to hear in your voice, too. I mean, it doesn't sound like another band's like, yeah, we have another album out. It's the best thing we've ever done. We're going to be going on a tour. No, you actually are excited about this record. And that makes me excited about it, too, because I know that my positive feelings behind it are behind a record that really meant something to you guys.
Yeah, that's really well said. The record was inspired. I guess is kind of the most basic way to say it without kind of patting ourselves on the back too much. We worked really hard on it, but while we were working on it, we also kind of were able to acknowledge, these are good songs. I'm enjoying listening to these, even though, we wrote them. It's still wow, I'm happy with this. It was a great feeling to really have confidence in your work, which, I'm absolutely proud of the records we put out, and Die Without Hope, Slow Death, Hell Chose Me. Those are all albums I'm really proud of, but there's always that trepidation in there as an artist. There's a part of you that goes, well, there's this part, and I know about this thing. The fans don't know about it, but I know about it. But that's not on this album. It really isn't. So that's the first in a weird way. So it is. We all have real good vibes on the backside here, on the band side.
Oh, absolutely. So, with that in mind, I mean, with everyone being able to spend more time in the studio and really making this album the way that they wanted it to be, what was it like for you being able to be in the vocal booth and being able to take your time with this record?
It was completely different and completely awesome, I have to say. I didn't track my vocals with Jason. Jason's one of my very good friends, and he was on my wedding party when I got married last year and everything. But where I was at with working on the record and producing the videos and just everything else that was going into it, I just wasn't able to fly to Florida and make it work with the schedule for the instruments. So I recorded my vocals with Mick Kinney in Newport Beach here in California, which is just up the road from where I live. Mick, and Al Nathrak is his band. He's also produced a number of Motionless in White records, Bleeding Through, what else? He's done a bunch of records. And so I did my vocals with him, and what was great about this time around was that while the guys were spending 44 days in the studio, we had pre-pro'd the entire album out prior. And just to kind of get people up to speed, pre-production for us means that before we actually got to the studio, we had recorded the entire album ourselves, very low quality. Not everything was there. The orchestration probably was more just kind of like a proof of concept than a final. Same with the guitar solos. Same with the drumming. Everything was just sort of there as a reference for us to listen to and for me to write lyrics to. So we had the whole album already. So I knew exactly what they were recording. And I was able to record basically parallel. I would do 1 or 2 songs a week across 4 or 5 weeks. And I really just got to take my time with it. And what we got to do because of that time was I got to be able to take these big, long takes, so I would be able to, when you record vocals, you don't actually do the song beginning to end. I'm not sure if everyone knows that. You do it in pieces. And sometimes with metal, it's real technical. You're doing a lot of layers. You want to hit real specific spots. It's actually real broken up, so it's real fragmented when you track it. And as a vocalist, where your voice, for the most part, comes from performance, you really have to push it out of yourself. Working in that fragmented way is really challenging. It's just not good for the performance, and you don't get the takes that you like. But doing these big, long takes, it really was I was able to get my voice in a place that I was real comfortable with it and real happy with it. And I think you hear it on the album. I think it sounds better than any previous albums, and I think it sounds closest to how I sound live, which is important for me. So it was the best experience ever, which I know it probably sounds like too much at this point of how great it was doing the record, but it really was. I just got to take 5 weeks with it, and we did like a song a week, and it was awesome. And again, it sounds great because we got that time.
Oh, and that's just so cool. And, it's great to hear that you did work with Mick on the vocals. And, I was going to say when it came to, like, the orchestration and the atmospherics and stuff like that, I mean, it did give me vibes of a Null Knockroth. And, it's great to hear that, even if it was just vocally, that Mick was able to contribute to that album. And, it's just like, it's great to hear all of that combined.
Yeah, he's a great producer. He's a great friend. He's a great songwriter. And the cool thing about him is he just wants to try. Hey, let's try it this way. Let's try it that way. Let's try it this way. Okay, let's see. Maybe it's an amalgam of all three. And when you have that time, and when you're only doing a song or two a week, it enables you to really just get into the creative process of seeing what works and what doesn't. And when it's not, well, it works because we're out of time, which sadly is a lot of albums. Even though those records sound great, there is a lot of compromise in there because of time and budget and whatnot. And so, yeah, we just took our time with it and just had fun. That was the best part. We just had fun with it.
Oh, that's so great to hear that. And another great aspect of the album as well has nothing to do with actually listening to the album, but actually looking at the album. I really love the album cover that's going on with this. I mean, it totally matches the mood of the album, and I just think it's one of my favorite Carnifex albums to date, and one of my favorite album covers of 2019. Where did this idea come from to use this as the album cover?
So I had the idea for this cover based off of a number of surrealist paintings I had seen, and the dystopian theme of the album, is obvious. And so looking back at dystopian artwork across the last 100 and 200 years, you see a lot of really interesting stuff, and a lot of it is really on theme with what the album's about, which is kind of viewing individual struggles through the lens of this epic war for survival. And so that's definitely the direction I wanted to go. I wanted scale, I wanted scope, I wanted it to tell a story, I wanted it to be visually interesting, I wanted people to look at it for a few minutes before they saw everything, because that's the allegory for the album. It starts right there with the cover. Like, you have to take the time to look at it, and you'll see it all. And then you see the crack at the bottom and everything opening up, and to me, that's the allegory for, that's you as a human being broken open, and those inner demons, those insecurities, all those fears, all that suppressed rage, just everything that pecks away at your humanity is crawling out, and you have to face it. And so that was where I started with the cover, was that allegory, and then bringing in the iconography of the Carnifex logo, the Ouroboros with the X. I wanted that to be front and center, just to really let people know, like, this is the CFXU, this is the Carnifex universe. And people know what goes on there. Like, it's not kind of, I'm always trying to establish this emotional connection with the fans, in a very personal way. And so I wanted that to be the sign to let everybody know, like, maybe this is a different type of cover, and maybe this scope is very different, but it's still always going to be about person to person in that direct connection. And then Blake Armstrong is the artist, and I found him through Gerardo, the vice president of Nuclear Blast. He's a good friend and a good friend of the band, and he knew we were looking for he knew the type of cover we were going for. I had explained to him we were looking for something really cinematic. And they had used Blake for a cover they did for a Nuclear Blast compilation album called Death Is Only the Beginning, where the cover looks awesome. And so I connected with him. I gave him the brief and some reference pieces, and man, he just took it to another level and just really added in so much amazing stuff. And that's the cover you see in front of you.
Yeah, and that's just so great to see that, too. I mean, when you go to the record store and you go and pick up that vinyl, even if you've never heard of Carnifex before, it's just the kind of album cover that can really draw you in and make you want to buy it, and, either hang it up on your wall and just immediately open it and check out what the music is to match that album artwork. I mean, just like everything about this album just feels like it's perfect for Carnifex in 2019 and what the fan base is looking for, in 2019. I mean, it just feels like such a natural evolution for you guys, and it's great to see that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And, that was all very intentional. Everybody in the band has worked very hard to create this album. And, album, we're self-managed. You know, we walked away from management last year, a year and a half ago now, and we did this whole record just us and Nuclear Blast. You know, and I think that's also partially why, you know, there's like all these things. You know, it's all this very cohesive thing, that the pre-orders, the cover, the video, how it sounds, everything. It's because it's just the band. You know, and the label has given us this really great opportunity to say, hey, you know, we trust your artistic vision, so we're going to enable you guys by, you know, giving you the money that you need to work with the people and take the time you need to do it. And I just think it's awesome that they recognize that relationship of what a label is to an artist, which I think is kind of lost right now. You know, it's a race to the bottom with record labels. You know, everybody's trying to offer less. You know, what's the cheapest you can get a band for? And I get that from the business side. It's tough out there for labels. But at the same time, like, if you kind of look back at those big records, those really just monumental records, a lot of that was because those labels really enabled the artists the freedom to spend the time and work with, you know, collaborate with other amazing artists, be it producers, artists, or other musicians, you know, guest features and whatnot, to really create something special. And Nuclear Blast really has embraced that too, and they let us run with it, and this is the kind of record they got from it. So I hope more labels start doing that.
Oh, absolutely. And amongst all of that, too, I mean, with what you guys were able to do with it, with what Jason was able to do with it, what Blake was able to do with it, you got some amazing guest spots on this record, too. I mean, both vocally and through guitar. I mean, what was it like to get both of them to be able to contribute to this album?
It was awesome, you know. It was awesome. I was able to connect with Alyssa initially through Tommy Jones. He's a music video director, and he also works at Nuclear Blast, and he's a friend. And he had worked with her on the Metal Allegiance metal supergroup. And so he had connected me with her because I had said, you know, hey, we'd really love to get Alyssa. I told the label, you know, we'd really love to get Alyssa on the album, and then, you know, Tommy knew her. And so we connected personally, and we had sent her that pre-production. You know, I'd said we recorded the whole album prior to the studio, so we had that song recorded, and we sent the pre-production to her. And, of course, she's real familiar with what pre-production is and what it sounds like. So, she dove right in and basically said, hey, I want you to just go nuts, you know, no rules, just elevate it any way you want. And so all the singing and the melodies and those rising scales, that's all her. The intro, that's her. You know, so she really knocked it out of the park. And then, you know, I had the lyrics for her, but she gave an insane vocal performance. And then when we came time to do the video, I mean, that thing was nuts. You know, it was a $24,000 short film essentially. And, you know, we had to fly her out from Montreal, and then we had to get everybody from LA to way out in the middle of the sand dunes out there where they shot Star Wars. And it was like a 4-hour trip each way. And we had a sandstorm, and the road got blown out with sand, and the RV got stuck, and we had to have a 4x get Alyssa up to the location because the trailer couldn't get up there, you know? So, like, it was an adventure, but we made it, we shot it, and everybody was just focused on the goal and the vision the whole time. And again, it shows in the video. The video's amazing.
Oh, yeah. That is just so cool. I mean, especially when you're able to get the budget to be able to make a short film like that. I mean, being able to, you know, like, choose one of the best songs on the record, choose a song with Alyssa on it, and, you know, just like being able to get that kind of location for the video as well. I mean, just seeing all that come together is just so cool.
Yeah, you know, that's something I've been really focused on lately is film and really and narrative and stuff like that, visual storytelling. So it was awesome to have a chance to produce that video, and our follow-up video, which is a music video for the title track, World War X. I was able to direct that video, so that one will be coming out July 5th, and that'll be directed by me, which is awesome because I'm really happy with how that one's coming out. We're just finishing the edit on it right now.
Oh, that's awesome to hear as well. I mean, especially that you get to be behind the camera on that one and actually get to direct it. I mean, what's it like for you to be able to be a part of it in a different way like that?
I mean, it's a kind of the natural step, you know. It's you know, the treatments for the music videos. I've been writing those for pretty much from the beginning, and the No Light Shall Save Us treatment, that was a collaboration between myself, Digital Thunderdome, and Scott Hansen. So I just felt like I was ready to, you know, go from getting it to the point where I'm coming up with the outlines and the treatments, which is what I did for the Slow Death video and the Drown Me in Blood video and the Bury Me in Blasphemy video, although we didn't have much of a budget for that one, so it was a little scaled down. And I just felt like, hey, you know what, I just, rather than kind of helicopter momming a director, which I guess I sort of do sometimes, and saying, oh, hey, why don't you get this shot? Oh, hey, why don't you come over here? Which is really like not the thing to do to a director. You should just let him work. I just, you know, I'll hire, you know, the Digital Thunderdome, who we produced the No Light video, to be the production company and to produce it. And then I'll just direct it that way. I'm not bugging anybody being, you know, the backseat director. And it was great. I got to stand on Scott Hansen's shoulders, and an amazing director of photography, Blake Anderson. Or no, not Blake Anderson, Blake Studwell. Sorry, a few Blakes going around on the project. So yeah, Blake Studwell was the DP on that one, and it was just a great collaboration, and I can't wait for people to see it.
Oh, fantastic. And I'm glad to hear that too. I mean, there's so much that's going on in the world of Carnifex right now. I mean, of course, with World War X coming out August 2nd, a new music video for the title track going to be coming out soon, and of course, Summer Slaughter as well too. I mean, the fact that you guys are able to tour behind this album right before the album comes out and during when it comes out as well too. I mean, that's like perfect timing to be able to go out on tour like that.
Yeah, you know, Summer Slaughter has been a great friend of the band. Ash Alwardson, it's his tour, and he put us on in 2010, put us on in 2016, and to be able to ask back to be a headliner this time around with a record that we're very proud of, with awesome bands. You know, we've been touring with Faceless since, I think we played our first show with Faceless in like 2006, you know, so we go so far back with those guys. And Cattle, same deal, they've been around forever. We both from San Diego. Like, I just feel like it's just this really natural, fun tour with friends that somehow, thanks to the fans and the support of everybody, that we're able to, you know, be part of being the headliners for. So yeah, it's just going to be a great summer with a great album. I'm ready for it.
Oh, awesome. And I think with that, I think that's a fantastic note to end on. I know you got a busy schedule going on today, and of course, everything that's going on with releasing the album. So I truly appreciate you taking this time to be able to talk to me about everything going on in the world of Carnifex. And of course, with that, the brand new album World War X coming out August 2nd. The fact that you guys are going out on tour with Summer Slaughter, brand new videos and everything. I mean, it's like the perfect time to be in Carnifex in 2019 and to be a fan of Carnifex in 2019. And again, with World War X, I really love this album. It's the best thing that you guys have done. I'm glad that you guys feel the same way, and I truly appreciate you taking this time to be able to talk to me about all of it.
Yeah, man, happy to, and thank you so much for having me. It was great questions and a great conversation.